Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
Hi, Scandalized listeners. Charlie and Jackie here with a really exciting announcement.
We're coming back to Podfort in 2026. We'll be live at the Boise Contemporary Theater on Friday, March 27th at 3 p.m.
This year, we're going to be digging into some of the juiciest fashion faux pas in American politics. You won't want to miss it.
We'd love to see our amazing listeners, so bring your friends and come talk scandals with us. And best of all, it's free.
That's Friday, March 27th at 3 p.m. from the Boise Contemporary Theater. See you then.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. We're traveling to all corners of the Gem State with our Idaho 44 project, where we explore every one of our amazing counties. So today, we're heading to the middle of southern Idaho. Lincoln County has been called a paradise for explorers. It's got ice caves and ice cream and Black Magic Canyon carved out of the land by the Big Wood River. Lincoln County is one of Idaho's most rural counties, and while there's a lot of wild beauty, there are not a lot of jobs. In fact, a lot of folks who live in Lincoln County actually work in Twin Falls or Blaine County, so think Ketchum. So the nonprofit Shoshone Project was created to bring philanthropic dollars from Blaine County to the bedroom communities in Lincoln County. So when Candace Stark sent us an email, we had to find out more. She is the founder and board chair of the Shoshone Project, and she's joining us along with Rebecca Wood, the founder of the Lincoln County Youth Center, and she also happens to be a Lincoln County commissioner. I want to welcome both of you to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Gemma. Happy to be here.
Good afternoon. It is so nice to be here.
Rebecca, let's start the conversation with you today. For folks who haven't been to Lincoln County, can you describe it for us? Because I heard you like to ride your horses in the mountains all over the county.
I do love to ride my horses, especially along the Littlewood River. The county is beautiful and is mostly ag-based. We are very farm-based area. We don't have a lot of big business or commercial enterprises. And so 70% of our workforce actually travels out of the county into other counties to be able to work. But we have brilliant young people who grow up very rural, and it's a great place to explore, like you said.
So, Rebecca, you just mentioned that a lot of the folks who live in Lincoln County don't actually work in Lincoln County. So where do most of them go to work, and what are they doing?
Well, a very big portion goes up to Blaine County, and some go to Jerome, and some go to Twin. A few trickle over to Gooding. Everything from service industries to big commercial construction, a lot of dirt work and construction jobs. We have a little bit of everything that go everywhere. And so with that comes a lot of hours that our people drive on the road. So it probably increases your day about 3 hours when you have to drive up to Ketchum to work. That makes for a very long day for our workforce.
Yeah, it really does. So, Candace, can you talk to us about the Shoshone Project? How did all of this start? Because my understanding is that it had something to do with the pandemic.
That's right. The pandemic started in 2020, and as you know, everything was shut down. Nobody was working. I live in the Wood River Valley, and I called a friend in Shoshone just to check on what was happening. And so she didn't know what was happening, so she went around to her community, knocking on doors, and was finding what you would expect. You know, many people weren't working, people were sick, people couldn't pay their rent or their utility bills. There was large food insecurity. And so I sent an email to my friends in the Wood River Valley and said, hey, let's help these folks out. We collected some warm clothing, we collected some funds, and we provided some food to probably 12 families that first winter during COVID. And then every year, this last year was our 6th in December, we've had a warm clothing and food drive. And so last year we've grown and we supported over 175 families in Shoshone. That's over 800 people that walked through the doors of the Lincoln County Community Center on that day. And we provided food, an unbelievable amount of warm clothing that we collected from the Wood River Valley community, groceries, grocery store gift cards, and presents for the kids. And so that's how we got started, and that's kind of our anchor program.
And Candace, the project helps out with grants as well as emergency funds. Could you explain the difference between the two for us?
Sure. So I would say that our grant program, we basically through the warm clothing and food drive have created relationships with lots of folks in Lincoln County, and that includes Rebecca, who founded the Lincoln County Youth Center, the library, the pool, the Shoshone School District, many of those boots on the ground organizations that are here doing the work. And so, I'm sorry, what was the question, Gemma?
Just explain the difference between,
Okay.
a grant and an emergency
Gotcha. I
fund.
gotcha. So I would say primarily we raise funds to provide grants to all of those organizations that I just mentioned to you. They come to us, they'll say, hey, we have a need. And so we'll provide a grant. But we do have a small emergency fund that is available to folks that have, for example, immediate kind of emergency needs, whether it's we've helped folks get to Twin Falls or to Boise for a medical emergency or, for travel expenses. We've helped a family whose child has cancer with, just kind of deferring some of their expenses because of the high cost of their medical bill. So it's just a little bit of an emergency fund that is available to
Mhm.
folks in Lincoln County.
So, Candace, you mentioned that you live in Blaine County.
Right.
However, the Shoshone project helps
Yes.
Lincoln County. So,
Right.
why is it, in your opinion, so important to be helping your neighbors?
Well, what? I think rural communities are incredibly resourceful, but they're often doing big work with very small budgets. They're very under resourced. They don't have the visibility of they don't have the visibility. They don't have the resources, and so we call it the rural philanthropy gap. I ran across this
Mm,
statistic recently, but basically it's just talking about the fact that 20% of Americans live in rural communities, yet only 3 to 7% of philanthropic dollars go to those communities.
mm. So I want to dig into that
Yep.
a little bit more, Candace,
Yep.
because and I'm going to quote you here because you've said investing in rural infrastructure is not charity; it is regional economic strategy. Can you
Absolutely.
talk about
So,
that?
yeah, so as Rebecca said, so much of the workforce in Blaine County drives up from Lincoln County. So, and I think that this isn't just a little Blaine County, Lincoln County uh, situation. I think this is reflective of rural communities all across Idaho, where you'll find that a lot of these folks are commuting to larger urban areas to work, yet they're really under resourced. And so, and those resources can range from food security to childcare, but they have incredible local leaders that are solving problems in their communities every day. And what we need to do is invest and collaborate to help close this philanthropy gap. And also, it obviously supports our larger economy.
Hmm. So, Rebecca, I know one of the things that is important to the project is supporting youth and families, as Candace just noted. I would love if we could talk about the youth center in Lincoln County because you said, because so many people who live in Lincoln County have to work outside of the county, a lot of times that puts an extra 3 hours, right? That you're on the road. That does not always align with a kiddo's school schedule. So, what does it mean to not just have a youth center, but to have a thriving youth center?
Well, I think it means a lot to us down here in Lincoln County. Like you said, putting an extra 3 hours on people's schedule every day while they commute. We have kids that are alone before school and kids that are alone after school. As a county commissioner and as someone who used to work at the school, I can tell you that I saw a lot of problems with that. Before we had the youth center, some of the things that I noted is we had a high rate of our kids getting in trouble. We had some issues with juvenile probation. We had a high teen pregnancy rate. We had a very low rate of kids that were ready for kindergarten. We had a lot of problems because these families are doing all they can to support it's kind of the working gap, right? They're working hard. They're
Mhm.
not taking services. They're doing their best for their families. But because of the time on the road, there is very little time for family, right? There's not a lot of whole time to sit down with your kids and help them with their homework. There's not a lot of time to spend with them on all the things that you normally would. It comes down to weekends, and these families are exhausted and they're also underfunded in a lot of ways. So by doing the youth center, we're able to pick up some of those pieces, right? So the kids come to a safe place after school. They are doing academic and enrichment programs. We feed them a meal. We do homework help. So when their parents get home from work, those things are done. So when they can get home and spend time with their kids and maybe go to a ball game or just read to them or spend some time and they've already had their homework help, man, it really makes a difference in the lives of these families.
Mhm.
The pregnancy rate in our local teens has dropped. We have things for these kids to do that they're not out on their own, bored, maybe getting in trouble. And we also have ways to develop them for academic success and being ready for kindergarten and having those reading skills and the STEM skills with all of our projects. It's really helping down here.
There's a statement that really resonates with me, and that is, if you want a village, you need to be a villager, right? And
Yes.
this really seems like this is what's happening between Lincoln County and Blaine County. And Candace, I go back to the Shoshone project where
Hmm.
you did see this rural philanthropy gap, right? But
Yes.
Lincoln County is part of your village. So, what does
Absolutely.
that mean to you, right? When you hear Rebecca talk about this youth center and the fact that you've created all of these villagers in this village, everyone's helping each other out. And ultimately, that's going to make everyone better and it's going to help your economy.
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. And I just have to go back to Rebecca, and I visited her youth center many, many times. It's phenomenal what she's created in the little tiny town of Richfield, and so she supports over 80 children there every day from
Mm.
pre-K to teens. And so, but that's just one example. I mean, other examples within the community are the food pantries here in Lincoln County. We support the library and the pool. We work with the school district on their free lunch program. So all of those things create this kind of regional ecosystem of support. And so much of what we're doing, I think that whole thing about shining more of a light on rural communities is important.
Hmm.
And we're doing that with the folks in the Wood River Valley. More and more people are coming to recognize this fact. They just don't think about it. You know, they drive through Shoshone on their way to Costco, and they don't understand. Well, they're beginning to really understand that it's a vibrant community here. And these folks are part of our regional economy, and they're our neighbors, and it's the right thing to do to support them. It does take a village.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for taking time to talk with us today and to give us a better understanding of your communities, but also the good work that all of you are doing. We've been speaking with Candace Stark, the founder and board chair of the Shoshone Project, and Rebecca Wood, Lincoln County Commissioner and the founder of the Lincoln County Youth Center, talking about the impact the project has had on Lincoln County. It is truly neighbors helping neighbors. Lincoln is just the latest county that we've been exploring for our Idaho 44 project. So if you have a story idea from your county, we would love to shine the spotlight on it. So send us an email, idahomatters@boisestate.edu. You've been listening to the Idaho Matters podcast from Boise State Public Radio. To stay in touch, you can find quick Idaho daily news every morning when you subscribe to the Connector podcast. Find this and other Boise State Public Radio podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now.